Hey everybody, it's Michael from the Break It Down Show. Today's guest is Michael Kurn. Southampton-born TV presenter and broadcaster, so far he had a career that has taken him across the globe, from major sporting events including the Rio 2016 Olympic Games and Hockey World Cup, to working with national and international broadcasters including Star Sports, Supersport, Mola TV, BBC and TalkSport. In the UK, you may have seen Michael working for Southampton Football Club and Hampshire Cricket on a match day or at one of the numerous local events he's involved with. Michael is also an author with his latest book, Life of a Saint, released in March 2020, and he's also the founder of Desire Dream Vision. You already know what to do. Go to savethebrave.org and support these fellas. We fight together PTSD. Hey, if you want to support our show, go to the PayPal link, put a little money in it. All the money goes straight back to the show. You can check out our website, it's breakitdownshow.com. You can find our merch there, or you can simply subscribe. You can also find us on YouTube. That's probably the best place to listen, and you can watch our videos there. Alright, enough of me, here comes Michael Kurn.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland. This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hi, I'm Michael Kurn, and you're watching The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yeah. So first off, this is cool. StreamYard is the service that we use. If you guys are into live streaming, definitely recommend what these guys do, because look what we're doing right now. I have Michael Kurn on the show. He is not even on the same continent as me. And it's pretty incredible when you think about it. We're able to communicate. You're in the United Kingdom, over in Great Britain, and I'm in Orange County, California. And here we are having this conversation. You come to me from Miss Morton Firth, and Sonia. She's awesome. She was just talking about being able to get back into the gym, COVID time. And you and I were just talking about the crazy year that we've had. For those that don't know, you're I guess you guys call it a presenter. We call it a color man, or, a sports announcer. But talk a little bit about what it is that you do, and then how was it trying to call? I'm assuming you guys did the same thing we did. You guys called via monitor instead of at the stadium, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, so for me, yeah, sports broadcaster, they'd call it in the UK here. So I've been doing it since 2009 was my first real shot at it. So I left college and did business, media, performance, and politics, and then I got the chance to do some local radio, and the journey was just incredible. And I've gone from hosting local radio shows in Southampton on the South Coast, and I guess a lot of you guys in the States will know Southampton as the place where the Titanic set sails from. So that's home for me. So a local radio in Southampton, which has led then to working on the Olympic Games in Rio, working on an FA Cup final, Hockey World Cup, Cricket World Cup last year. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a journey. It's been incredible. I feel very blessed, but of course, the harder you work, they sometimes say the luckier you get. So the hard work and the legwork's had to be put in. But yeah, the last 12 months has been crazy. Pretty much every single one of my contracts just stopped. I was lucky I kept my radio show until July. But then everything just changed. People cut budgets, live sport stopped. And when live sport resumed, only a certain amount of broadcasters were allowed in. And a lot of that was done by the host feed and the host broadcast. So yeah, it's been a quiet year, but actually a really busy year, because I've been evaluating of where I've been. And I guess I've never stopped. Since I started presenting, every year was just another year. And I'd work the football season, the soccer season, then I'd work cricket or tennis or hockey in the summer, and then start again. So actually COVID and the lockdown has been interesting, because I've had to stop. And I've had to have a little look at where I am and evaluate, and what am I doing right? What can I do better? What have I done wrong? So yeah, it's been a bit of a blessing, but incredibly weird, and something I hope we never have to go through again.
Yeah, same. It has definitely been weird. It seems like here in America, obviously, you can be a peak sportscaster if you're doing football, basketball, baseball, maybe hockey too. You could consider that. Hockey names aren't as well known, But it seems like you guys have even more opportunities to be a presenter at the elite level. I mean, it could be horse racing, which you guys probably do a lot more and at a bigger scale than we do. Gosh, yeah, football, your football, soccer style football, association ball, but also Formula One racing is way bigger there than it is here. On and on. What sports do you enjoy calling the most, and which sports are just not accessible to you because you're not in America and there's not American football? I mean, I know you guys have had like the London Knights and all that kind of stuff, but it's different, because it's the big time is here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I guess for me, I love my soccer. Always have done, and I got into MLS big time when David Beckham came across and played for Galaxy, and obviously Steven Gerrard then went across to the Galaxy as well, and obviously now David's got his team at Miami. So I've always kind of loved my soccer in the UK, and obviously it's nice to watch some of the MLS stuff now. And a friend of mine is doing a bit of work over there with a few clubs with a bit of media work. So I'd love to get over to the States at some stage and maybe bring my English football knowledge to the MLS. You never know. But no, I'm very blessed, really. I've worked on some amazing sports, from field hockey in the UK. I know the women's USA field hockey team is fantastic. And I know you've got a lot of universities that have some great hockey scholarships. And obviously cricket, which is a sport. I know you guys in the States aren't too kind of up with cricket. It's kind of baseball, right, but you fling the bat down at your ankles rather than at your shoulder. So yeah, no, I love my sport, and I'm very blessed. I've worked in tennis and cricket and all those. So I enjoy all of them, really. But I think the big thing for me is I just enjoy hearing people's story and being able to share it. I think there's something really special in that, and be able to share a moment that people are watching and hanging on every thread of what's going to happen. Are we going to win? Are we going to lose? But a big thing for me is I just love telling people's story, and I think that's really important. It doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete or you're just just like me and you, just living our dream, doing things that we love. Everyone's got a story to tell, and I think that's a big thing for me.
One of the things that I wonder about when you call an association soccer game is the ups and downs. I mean, in baseball, there's a leisurely nature to it. Vin Scully is probably the most notable person. He's in his 90s now. He just retired, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. And he's big on, like, when the home run happens, when the big moment happens, he just sits back and he just shuts up, maybe 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, as the crowd just tells the story for him. It doesn't seem like after maybe a massive goal that soccer has that kind of leisure nature to it. So how do you modulate the excitement, but without like taking us up the mountain and then back down up? Because when that breakaway happens, sometimes the goal gets blocked and it's kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah, no, massively. There's some amazing commentators. I'm quite lucky because I get to sit in the studio and then at half time go, right, this is what's happened. How cool is this? And then chat to the former players, which is great. But yeah, commentary is a great art, and actually calling the games is something that I've done once or twice, but it's just such an art form when you call that. There's some amazing commentators. John Champion, who I think is NBC, he works for currently in America, calling the Premier League. And I worked with him a few times, and an incredible guy. And it is literally an art form. You have to understand it. And I remember there was a couple of former players that are friends of mine, and they said that they worked with players like John, commentators like John, and there is just this calmness of delivery, and they know when to call the right moment. And one former player said to me, he was doing a commentary with John, and all of a sudden he's talking with his microphone, and then he just put his microphone down on the table and looked at him. And obviously my friend then told the story, and then all of a sudden he's like, pick the microphone back up. I've like in his head, he's saying, I've nearly finished, pick the microphone back up. But it was just that relaxed nature. You do your research, you do your planning, and you know what needs to happen, what needs to be said. And yeah, I think you breathe for the moment. One of the greatest bits of commentary in the UK we've had is when Aguero for Manchester City scored the goal that won them the league title. And there was one commentary where the person went, Aguero scored a goal, that's his X, Y, and Z goal of the season. Has he clinched Manchester City the title? And then the other commentator, a great guy, just went, Aguero! And that's it. And that is the commentary that is synonymous with that moment. It's not the guy reeling off, have we done this, have we done that? It's just the name, just the passion. And I think that's the art of great sportscasting, is that you have to be a fan as well, because you're that privileged person that can share the story. And I think if you're a fan and you show that passion, I think that's a massive part of it.
When you get to present for the Olympics, are you doing a whole a circuit of sports, and then you doing like the evening show, or what was your specific job? Because there's a zillion jobs in the Olympics. I mean, you could be covering a game, you could be doing reporting there on the scene. What was your job with the at the Rio Olympics?
So Rio 2016, I was very lucky. So at the Olympic Games, I worked on the hockey right the way up to the quarterfinal stage, and then I went back to the UK because I then came back for the Paralympics, where I hosted the wheelchair tennis, which was incredible. There were some amazing games at the Paralympics as well. So yeah, I was very lucky. So I was based in the stadium, and the hockey was just awesome because it was a sport that maybe that a lot of people in Brazil hadn't really encountered properly before, and the audiences loved it. And just to be at an Olympic Games is incredibly special, you know. And again, there's a lot of pressure on that because these athletes have trained for 4 years, and you're telling their story in the stadium. You know, you've got to get their names right. You've got to make sure the announcements are correct, especially if you're announcing the fact they've won a medal. That's their moment. And I remember when at the Paralympics, and there was a gold medal announced, and I'd known the athlete through presenting the world championship in the wheelchair tennis. And afterwards, it hit me that my voice was the first voice he heard, and the first person he heard say the Olympic champion. And that kind of took me back a little while afterwards. I was thinking, wow, I've just delivered the line, the Olympic champion, to someone. It's the first time they've heard it. And I heard someone say about boxing. I watched a documentary with Frank Bruno, of course, who famously fought Mike Tyson. And he said he just longed to hear the words, and the new world and just being that person that says those words for that moment that means so much to someone is a very privileged and blessed position.
The other thing is a lot of these sports are not, you know, top of our mind. For one, like team handball, it's what a fun sport, but it's never really caught on globally. You know, there's a lot of countries that play it, but nobody can name 5 team handball players. But that doesn't mean these people haven't poured their lives and their hearts into this. So how do you prepare for that? Like, you get the assignment, head down to the, you know, Turner Arena for the team handball. You know, you've got to get boned up on the rules, you know, so you know, like, good questions. And then, yeah, the players' names, their origin stories. It is a lot of work, and you have to do this. I'm assuming a lot of the time you're doing this live. Like, if you're presenting after the moment, I mean, you're the guy on the spot. You're not in a studio with a cue in your ear and everything. How do you calm yourself down enough in that madness of the end of a championship game or whatever it is to get all these things right and do right by these athletes?
It's knowledge, it's preparation. You have to do your homework. Very simple. You know, you have to take your notes. You have to rehearse almost. You know, I remember when I first started, I'd practice links in front of the mirror, and I still do it now. And you just have to know where you're going and know scenarios and practice. It's no different than if you're the athlete out there on the pitch. You know, you have to know your stats. You have to know your how you're going to deliver it. You have to look after your voice. You have to make sure you've got everything you need to deliver the best broadcast you can. So yeah, it's effectively you're like an athlete as well, I guess, but with a microphone in your hand.
This is so true. So I used to be a spy, and I used to deploy to combat zones. And when you get to go out into the field, like, that's like our championship game. We're in the field, and you're going out. My job is to talk to people. And so I would walk around the camp, and I would practice the questions, right? And so I would think about, what was the last question I'd want to know? Like, where is the bomb? Who was the bad guy, right? But you don't get to ask that question first. What's the question before that? What's the question before that? So that no matter what the scenario was, I had already had all of the conversations in my head. I knew that the next question would be ready to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, massively. You got to know where you're going. I guess it's a bit like anything. It's when I do my whole desire, dream, vision, and the motivational stuff that I do, that, you know, if you're going to go and climb Mount Everest, you kind of map your route out before you go. And, you know, it should be the same in all walks of life, in all things you do. You know, you need to map out the route, the way you're going to go. And, you know, if all of a sudden I'm doing a football match, you know, this weekend it's FA Cup semi-finals, you know, my team, I'm a Southampton fan, we're taking on Leicester. And, you know, if you're working on that game, you need to know the permutations on if Southampton win, if Leicester win. You know, if Southampton win, it's their first FA Cup final since 2003. They've only won it once in 1976. You know, you have to know that. And if they lose, it's the second FA Cup semi-final they've lost in 5 years, because they lost against Chelsea a few years ago. So you just have to know your stat facts, figures, and numbers. And and a good friend of mine presents the Formula One, and we were talking about note taking a little while ago, and she said that the amount of notes she's got that she's mostly never used, but they're there if you need it. And all of a sudden, because you've digested that information, that you might be doing a completely different gig, and all of a sudden it springs, I remember something similar to this, and it happened in a different sport, but it was a similar story. So yeah, it's just prior preparation to everything.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. One of the things I love about the Olympics when I watch is my brother and I, my friends, I try to get them to do it too. Like if it's a race or something like that, we try to pick who's going to come in last, and then we root like hell to be wrong, right? Because the person who's running up front, Usain Bolt, is going to go run and be super fast. And yes, it's fun to watch him, but that person who's also put in time, who's maybe 12 feet behind him, it's just no difference at all. Or the person running the 10K, they're running 6 miles and they're running their heart out. And this is their championship moment. They know they're not going to medal. I love rooting for these guys to prove me wrong. And even if they're last, we're screaming and yelling and having a great time rooting for this person, our person that we pick. I think it's just a great way to look at it, because we often lose sight of the fact that that person is probably the best and the fastest and the strongest and the hardest working person in their country at this discipline.
Yeah, no, completely. And that was something that was really nice about the Olympics in Rio, because there was a lot of political things going on, in the sense of that, there was a lot of need for finances to be spent on the people of Brazil, not on bringing a major sporting event to Rio. And there was a lot of animosity towards the organizing committee and towards the government. But what I thought was really special is that love and support that you just mentioned, of supporting someone, even if they know they're going to win, was really powerful and shone through from the people of Brazil. The support for the athletes was incredible. And I think there is something very special about Olympic Games. Like you said, that these people have trained for 4 years, if not 8 years. This could be their first Olympics. It could be their last Olympics. This could be their last shot of trying to get into an Olympic final of a discipline. And I think there's something very special. We saw in London in 2012 that the audiences with an Olympic Games are very special. And I think that'll be a sad thing with Tokyo, obviously, this year. It's great that we can get an Olympic Games, and it's great, fingers crossed, if all goes to plan, that there'll be medals given out and that athletes can compete. But there is something special about the support and about the atmosphere and what an Olympic Games is all about. But yeah, as long as we can get a Games on safely, hopefully the next one in another 4 years, well, it'll be 3, it will be less 1 year less, but hopefully we'll be able to get fans back in stadiums, and that will really help.
I've got landscape, because I started an hour early, so I've got landscapers in my backyard, leaf blowing. So I'm gonna do short questions, and you're gonna do long answers.
No worries.
The Brits, how heavy are they into Winter Olympics? I mean, that's another thing that's coming up basically next year. Eddie the Eagle aside, how big are you guys on the Winter Olympics?
Yeah, do you know what? It's one of those things that obviously Olympic Games, it's on television and everyone kind of gets behind it. We're more of a Summer Olympics kind of nation. Obviously, we don't have skis, mountains. We don't have bobsleigh tracks and things like that. We don't have massive ice rinks everywhere. And down to things like even like ice hockey. Ice hockey is not a sport that's played at an amateur level massively. It is played amateur, but it's not played. It's not an ice rink in Southampton for people to play. So yeah, it doesn't create the same buzz in the UK as the Summer Olympics. Right. But it's still good to watch. It's nice. Anyone that wants to put themselves on a tin tray and go head first down a luge, I'm like, no, I'm all right. I'm not going down a bobsleigh track, but I'll watch you though. Just like the Cool Runnings film, right? What an amazing story that is. But yeah, no, it's not as big in the UK as the Summer Olympics. But we've still got some great athletes. Like Lizzie Arnold and people like that compete and win medals. We compete well and we do win. But from a supporter perspective, it's not as mainstream as the Summer Games.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I think is interesting that we don't have, that you guys have, is because we have states, not nations. Ireland can play soccer, Wales can have a soccer team. You guys can play Germany. I mean, in a friendly all the time. All these places that aren't that far. I don't know how far it is from London to say Frankfurt, but it's just not that far. These are regional. So when Ireland is going bananas for that. Like, we don't have Utah going crazy for their team, and as they play Kansas, it just doesn't happen that way. Can you give us a sense for what it means when these nations, these national teams play one another, and the rivalries that happen, because again, like when there's the Middle Eastern Cup in soccer, it's crazy for those folks. Everybody in Iraq stops what they're doing and they watch, even if they're playing stupid Bahrain, or whatever small country it is. They are insane about this, and I know that's the same thing for Europe.
Yeah, no, completely. Everyone loves sport. I think in the UK, there's a massive lot of sport for it. And we're quite lucky that we compete relatively well as a nation and as a group of nations. But yeah, there's always that excitement. Yeah, we've just had the Six Nations rugby. And Scotland and England and Wales and Ireland, they all play each other, and there's like little trophies, like Scotland play England for the Calcutta Cup, and it's brilliant because there's that like little bit of tension, and we've got to beat the Scots if you're English, and the Welsh want to beat everyone. So it's great fun actually, and it's nice, and it's a bit of rivalry in it, and it's friendly, and it's the same with soccer. Regionally, Southampton, our rivals are Portsmouth. Now we don't play each other that often because we're in the Premier League and Portsmouth are a couple of leagues lower. But it's nice. We played them in the League Cup and the FA Cup or League Cup. We played a couple of seasons ago, and we won 4-1. But it was just nice, and that rivalry's there, and it's that little bit of my brother-in-law is a Portsmouth fan, so we have a little bit of banter and have a bit of fun. But it's just that, I guess it's that old school combat warfare, isn't it? Of my team's better than yours, we're going to win, and at the end of the day, you can have a drink afterwards and celebrate and either commiserate if you've lost. But it's nice. I think it brings people together, sport, on all levels, whether you're playing or participating or watching. There's just something magic about it.
When you look at the elite league, I don't want to say Premier League because that's not the right thing, but when you look at the elite leagues in terms of football, and you have Premier League, you have Bundesliga, La Liga, and all that kind of thing, how tough is the rivalry between those elite leagues in trying to lay claim to being the best? I mean, because it's, the players are going to go where the money is, and that means that the cream rises to the top. But they're all competing for the same ad revenue, and they're all competing for ratings and everything. How does that work? Because that's sort of a mystery to us also.
Yeah, it must be. So the big thing is down to broadcast rights. So the Premier League is the biggest in that around the world. People want to, gosh, it's billions and billions of pounds that get spent on broadcast rights in the year for the Premier League. And we've seen with Spanish football, I guess a lot of it comes down to how competitive the league is. If you look at the Premier League, there are certain teams that are doing well. Manchester City have done well. Liverpool did really well last year. And there are teams some years that run away with it. But if you look anywhere down from, say, 3rd or 4th place in the Premier League, right the way down to 14th, 15th, anyone can kind of beat anyone. And it's really competitive. Whereas if you look at a lot of the continental leagues, like the Bundesliga, or if you look at La Liga or Serie A, there's like 1 or 2, maybe 3 teams that dominate. So on the continent, the Champions League is quite popular because obviously that's the competition that they want to compete. So Champions League at the Bernabeu or the Nou Camp is massive, and it's big over here in the UK as well. But we're very lucky with the Premier League. I think when I used to work for the Premier League channel, we broadcast to 74 channels around the world. So that kind of shows the domination of the Premier League, and that's why you have the players like De Bruyne, you have the players like Sadio Mane and all those big names that play in the UK currently. So yeah, I think I think it's like anything, isn't it? You see a league doing really well and you're like, well, we want to do that as well. And it's, what's the magic formula? And I think the Premier League has been a lot of time in the making. When the Premier League first started, it wasn't this big thing that is now. It takes time. It's like a snowball, right? You put a snowball at the top of the mountain, roll it down, and by the bottom of it, it's a massive snowball. And I think that's what's just happened. It's escalated and grown. The interest has grown. Football's always been very popular in the UK, but all of a sudden you start embracing these international superstars that come over, and then people like Beckham have the big brand appeal. Manchester United become this massive global super brand. And before you know it, because of those people and those clubs, your eyes are on the Premier League, and they did very well to capitalize on that.
My girlfriend's dad is from Portishead, and he's in his mid-80s. He just had his birthday the other day. His name's Don Shaw. So first off, hey, Don, how are you? Hope you enjoy this episode. But you have people in the audience. I mean, this is his prime thing he does now is he hangs out, maybe reads a book, watches some TV, and he watches football. I mean, he has the European football channel. He watches all of it. He doesn't care. He doesn't even... he just loves it. This is his thing. Are you thinking about these parts of your audience as you're presenting these things? Are you thinking like, gosh, there's probably a guy in America who's been in America longer than he was in England, but he's absolutely English. He's absolutely bananas about these teams. How do you break down the audience in your head that you're speaking to? Because there are millions and millions of people.
No, completely. So for me, I think presenting is really important in the sense you have to make a connection with who you're talking to. So a tip that I was given right when I very first started by a guy called Tommy Boyd, who UK listeners and viewers to this will maybe know who he is. He was a big TV star in the 80s in the UK. And he said to me, he goes, Michael, whenever you're doing anything, talk to one person. Pretend you're talking to your best mate. And that's something that I've always tried to do, that regardless of how many people are watching around the world or how big the stage is, whether I'm in Wembley Stadium or I'm in the Ageas Bowl in Hampshire and it's the Cricket World Cup was jam-packed full of people, or I'm at St Mary's Stadium with 32,000 people. Whenever I communicate and I look down that lens, I'm just talking to one person, and I pretend it's their best mate. And to be fair, I think it's just I want to communicate with you. My attention is with you right now. We're here in this event. I've got the microphone, and I want every single one of you, all 32,000 people, to feel like I'm speaking to you directly. And that's the big thing I try and do, is just try and communicate directly with people and just try and speak to one person. And I think that's important.
There's a leaf blower right outside of my tent right now. Let's transition into the other stuff that you're doing. Like you said, you did because of the pandemic, you've done a reassessment, you're doing some acting, you do some motivational speaking, you've written a book. What do you want to talk about next?
Well, I guess it's an exciting time. I've had a busy week this week because my first movie comes out on the 1st of May. So I've kind of evaluated and worked out what I do. So the journey kind of began about 12 months ago. I wrote a book called Life of a Saint, which again tells people's story. So I interviewed 21 former Southampton footballers about their story, how it began. And basically I did a book which was called Life of a Saint, and it was their story in their words. So I interviewed them and then typed up the interviews. And then this year is the 45th anniversary since we won the FA Cup. And I know a lot of the players that played in that cup competition. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to celebrate the 45th anniversary with a movie? So then COVID happened, and obviously interview restrictions could come into place, and it became very difficult. But over the course of the last 12 months, I've got a fantastic couple of guys I'm working with, a guy called Mike Thew, who's amazing, and Tim Ryan, who's been my editor and cameraman and everything. He's been brilliant. And we've basically made this documentary, and I've interviewed all the players, and I narrate the documentary, and it tells the story of how they won the FA Cup from the first round to the last round. So it comes out on the 1st of May, and all the proceeds from the project are going back to the players as a thank you from the fans, and also to the Saints Foundation, who have done some amazing work in lockdown. So that's really cool. But it was a massive project because I thought it'd be great to do a book. The initial concept was to do a Life of a Saint book to celebrate it. And then the movie happened. So all of a sudden we've got a book, a DVD, plus we've made a commemorative box, which has a scarf, player cards, postcards, and all these things. And it's like, yeah, there's a team of 3 of us, and I've kind of been like the creative lead. So I've had to do all this stuff, and the pressure this week's been crazy because everything's ready to go. The DVD demo came back from the printers to get the DVDs done. And they're like, yeah, you need to sign this off. It's on you. And then the same with the book. And it's like, oh, so I've like got the power now to sign this off. If this isn't good, it's on me. If this is broken, it's on me. But it's been amazing, and it's been nice to tell their story. And I alluded to it earlier on that actually telling people's story is what really does it for me. I absolutely love it. And this project's really cool. And I don't know what we're going to do next. I'm going to take a breather after it's out, and hopefully it'll be nice and successful. But yeah, it's been wicked, and it's been great to make a movie. Like, if I don't do another one, I can put on my CV that I made a movie and tell the grandkids one day that, yeah, your granddad made a movie one day. That'd be quite cool.
Yeah. So, okay, tell us again when it comes out, and then how those who are fans of the team, how they get a hold of it.
Yeah, so it comes out on the 1st of May, which is the anniversary to the day that we won the FA Cup. And just go to lifeofassaint.co.uk. And then you can get it on there. You can either buy the bundle box or the DVD on its own. There'll be a digital download as well. But yeah, lifeofassaint.co.uk.
And I'll put that in the show notes for you guys if you missed it on the podcast side or on the live side. Okay, so I want to get back into some of these other projects. The book, you have another book that's separate from this, though, right? Like your own motivational book. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, desire, dream, vision. So I've always had this mantra, like when I was a kid, like playing football, that whatever you want in life, if you want it bad enough, you can get it if you work hard. There's a limit to, obviously, not everyone can be a Premier League footballer, and talent obviously comes into that. But, if you work hard and give it your all, you're going to achieve it to some level. So for me, it wasn't about presenting the Formula One or presenting the Premier League on a particular day, month or week. It was to be a presenter and to share people's stories. So I could achieve that by doing my own podcast. I could achieve that by doing other bits and pieces. So it wasn't too specific as a goal. So, it was achievable, and work hard and you can get there. And I kind of had this mantra, and it was all down to Muhammad Ali. I kind of really got into him and his history when I was about 13. And it wasn't just about what he did in the ring. That's what first brought me to him. But everything he did outside the ring, standing up and refusing to fight in the Vietnam War, losing his fighting license for the prime years of his career, but it wasn't, he was giving up that not for him, but for a bigger cause, and for standing up for something that meant so much. And equality, the things he did in America for equality was incredible. And there's this amazing quote from Muhammad Ali that says, "Champions aren't made in gyms. They're made from something deep inside, a desire, a dream, and a vision. You've got to have the skill and the will, but the will must be stronger than the skill." And that mantra stayed with me, and desire, dream, vision then became my 3 words, and that was on my mirror. And I've still got the original Post-it note from when I was about 13, still stuck on my mirror, that I see every day. And I just think it's 3 really great words: desire, dream, vision. Desire about it, dream about it, visualize it, make it happen, like live it, eat it, breathe it. And for me, I kind of lived my life by that. I achieved my first TV show by the time I was 24, 25. And I got invited back to my old school, and they said, "Look, can you come and do a talk? Like, you've done pretty well." I was like, "Really? Like, I'm just a lad from Southampton." And I know you've done well. And I did this talk, and one of the teachers said, like, "This is really good. This should be a book." And I went, okay. So literally I went away and I wrote this book in about a week, like the basic framework of it. And it was just all the key philosophies that I spoke about in the talk, really, about fear, failure, sacrifice, time, scales, balancing opportunity, and just how I done it. And I made it into like a workbook. Okay, so what do you want to achieve in life? Here are your small steps, your medium steps, your big steps. Everything leads on to everything. And I gave examples of things I had done, examples of things that other people had done, and I just put it into a book, in Desire, Dream, Vision, and that came out a couple of years ago now already. It's flown by. Which was great. And it was just nice to share that story. And I always say, even if like one person reads it and it makes a positive impact on them, it was worth the effort to write it and everything. And yeah, so that's really cool. And Desire, Dream, Vision is kind of my brand. It's my mantra. And, there's loads of cool things I want to do with it. But timing is obviously of the essence with that, and is key. And, I'd love to one day do like a massive like yearly conference where you invite young people along, but they don't have to pay to come. It's all free, but paid via sponsors. And we get people like Tony Robbins there, and, people like Rob Moore and people like Sonia and people like that there to share their story. But it doesn't cost the young people anything to come. It's like a real chance for them to be inspired and for that next generation. So that's like a long-term plan with that, but we'll see what happens in the time, in due course. But yeah, I guess a big thing for me, it's just been about telling those stories, and actually serving's a big thing for me. I've always wanted to make a difference to other people's lives. And my great grandfather was awarded the George Medal in the Second World War, and he's a big inspiration for me. I've got a picture of him at home, and I think about him every single day, and I've got his medal and stuff. And he risked his life to go into a minefield to save someone else's. So Desire, Dream, Vision is kind of spawned from being a kid and really appreciating what he did, and all of a sudden just naturally developed into what I do now.
It's one thing to say design, dream, and vision, but and I guess I use the example of Muhammad Ali like you used. He had a lot of things, a lot of adversity that came in and at him from a lot of different angles. I mean, yes, the government, racism, all of these things, but also like his peers who are fighters. They're incredible. Not Joe Lewis, but Joe Frazier talks about envisioning the fight over and over again before they fought in the Philippines. And some of the times, as he pictures the whole fight, sometimes he lost and he was ready to die, and those guys basically are in the 15th round and they're both ready to quit. But Joe happened to quit an instant before. Or how about Henry Cooper? Basically knocks Muhammad Ali out, and only through a little bit of I mean, the difference between winning and losing against Henry Cooper in that fight.
Fine margins.
Yeah, I mean, he really won the fight, but he didn't, So
well, it was Angelo Dundee, wasn't it? If I'm right in saying, wasn't it?
Yes,
Angelo
Dundee
right. was known for having a really sharp thumb. And apparently, the rumor is that he just caught Muhammad Ali's glove. And that meant that the fight had to change and then bits and pieces. But yeah, Henry Cooper, I think still to this day, is the only person to put Ali on his backside at that point of his career, which was incredible.
Yeah. And so you look at Henry Cooper doesn't quite get there, right? And there's a moment, it's a championship moment. And maybe it's Angelo's help. Maybe it's a slow count. Maybe it's being saved by the bell. Michael Phelps, the greatest swimmer of all time, he won one by a piece of a fingernail, like half of a fingernail, and you couldn't even see the difference with your eye. You had to go to a camera and electronic timing to see this thing that was like 2/100ths of a second difference. I mean, that's a tie, but it wasn't. He's considered the winner. And so these moments come up when your desire and someone else's desire, and you both roll the dice. And sometimes it's just that difference. Because I don't know the guy that Michael Phelps beat. I don't know that guy's name. He's a great swimmer, probably the best swimmer in his country. He damn near beat Michael Phelps, but that gave Phelps the next medal, the next gold medal. And that difference between desire and when desire and desire meet, it's that preparation for opportunity that comes into play.
No, certainly. And failure is so important as well in the journey. You have to fail to be a success. Think of how many times that Michael Phelps failed before he achieved that level of greatness. And I think that's a big thing. And when you're a kid, and you're growing up and you're developing, right? You learn to walk, you fall over. You don't just lay on your back and go, do you know what? I'm not cool on this whole walking thing. Just bring me food and water for the rest of my life. I'm just going to lay here. You don't. You get up again and you have that resilience. And I think as you get older, it's easy to maybe lose that resilience and lose that drive and ambition that actually we're all born with. We had it to learn to talk, to learn to walk, to learn to feed ourselves, and everything that we've done. And I think that's a real important lesson that we can learn from young people and watching, kids and babies grow up. They never give up. When they're making a puzzle and it doesn't quite work, they might have a tantrum and throw it on the floor. But guess what? Within a couple of weeks, they've made that puzzle. And I think we just have to sometimes go back to those little roots. And failing's good. It's how we learn about ourselves. I love it. I love it when someone tells me I can't do something or I fail, because it makes me better and makes me want to fight harder.
I don't know if you've seen it on Netflix or if it's available out in Great Britain, but there's this thing called Last Chance U, and it's a series where they go to these junior colleges, and they have a basketball coach named John Mosley who was on the show, and he takes these guys that had top tier college scholarships, and then they screw up because their lives just aren't prepared for this level of academic rigor, collegiate. These guys are basically pro athletes, but they're just in college. And he takes them through this gauntlet as a coach. Only a coach can. And he's he pushes them and pushes them and pushes them, and they want to quit. Now they get mad at him. He's like, I believe in you more than you do. I'm pushing you because this is what it takes. I've been there. I've been you. I know what you have to do. And you have to push way harder. You shouldn't be mad at me. You should be thanking me, because I'm going to make you great. I'm going to put you in front of people, and I'm going to say, this guy is great. I've pushed him as hard as I can, and they do not fail. But that young mindset, it doesn't work like that. And so he shapes it. He's like, this is how you do it. This is how you get ahead. I don't care if you're going to be an NBA player. What I care about is that you believe in yourself and you work so hard and you're so relentless that everybody wants to give you a shot. Everybody wants you on their team.
Yeah. No, I love that. I watched the first series of American football of Last Chance U. And I think it's incredible. And I think it's important to surround yourself with people like that, who are mentors or people that inspire you. My big inspirations are Muhammad Ali, my great granddad, and the 1976 Saints Cup winning team. So to have done the movie is quite cool. But you've got to have those people around you. And it doesn't have to be, I always say to people, it doesn't have to be famous people or athletes or people that are in the media. It can be people that have achieved something that are close to you, that mean something to you. But actually having those people as a little bit of a guide and light, and especially if you can have them personally in your life as well, and they can kind of just give you a little bit of a nudge sometime and say, come on, you're better than this, you've got this, come on. And I think it's important to have. And I still play a bit of football. I'm trying to cling on to a bit of a football career for as long as I can before the body says no. And we've got a great team of goalkeepers. There's 3 of us in our little training group with our coach, and we all push each other and we all look out for each other. And I think it's nice when you've got that environment around you.
How do you take a kid that hasn't had that and you get them to believe in themselves? I mean, it's one thing to write a book and talk about it, but in practice, how do you get, like, if you're that kid right now and you're in, I don't know, Leeds or somewhere, and you just haven't figured it out because no one around you ever figures it out, and no one you know is going to go in the direction that you want to go in. How do you do this? How do you lift up? How do you get someone to help mentor you and do that?
Do you know what? I think the most important thing is that I guess there's a really cool guy that you all know, this guy in America, Steve Harvey. And he says that we've got to just forget that being a success is about running, singing, dancing, acting, and playing football. Like, being a success is finding out what makes you tick. What do you get up every day and love doing? And I think there's so much pressure on younger people today because of Instagram and social media of, success is having a Lamborghini and a Gucci handbag. No, that's not success. Success is waking up every day and loving what you do and having people around you that inspire you. And I think, when I go and speak to schools, I really stress that. And I say, look, you've got one life. Like, you've got to make the most of it. Find out what makes you tick. Life is short. And, when I'm speaking to kids in school, like, right now, you don't want to be here. You want to be grown up a bit more. You want to be able to drive a car. You want to be out working. But trust me, take everything you can from here, because it's like, I wish I could go back and take a bit more from school. But yeah, I think for me, I just say to like the younger people, it's like, look, the world is your oyster right now. The opportunities are endless, but don't let your success be what you think other people want it to be. I think it's very easy for us these days to do things that we do because we want other people to go, oh my God, look at them. And I guess a big thing for me is a big thing that motivated me in my 20s was that I always wanted to own this particular watch that I saw in a magazine when I was about 20. And I said that I wanted my dream car before I was 30. Now, I wish that the watch I had seen was just like a little Swatch watch or something. And I wish the car that I saw was maybe a Fiat 500. But unfortunately, I had an eye a bit like a magpie. And the watch that I really wanted was a Breitling. And the car was an Aston Martin. And I was really worried when I got to the point that I could get the watch, because it took me till I was 27. So it was 6 years of hard graft. And I've walked into the jewelry shop. I bought the watch, and I was really worried that I was going to get it and then want the next thing. Like, what's the next one? What comes next? And you know what? I still to this day have not had this feeling, because I didn't get that watch to show off and for people and to walk around going, look at me with my watch. I did it because it was something that I really wanted. And every day I look at it, it reminds me of the hours, minutes, and seconds that I've put into sacrifice on my journey. And it's the same with the Aston Martin. I did it nearly 12 months ago now. And it was for no one else apart from me. I've not put it on my Instagram. No one really knows I've got it. But I did it for me. And I think that's what you need to say to like these younger people is like, find out what makes you tick. Like 1,000 followers on Instagram don't care. They might act like they care and they might like your picture, but that's not valuable to you. Valuable is what makes you tick in here and in here, that keeps you kind of fresh and keeps you focused. So you've got to just find what makes you tick. And it's okay not to know what that is straight away. My life has changed now. I've gone from wanting to be a major sports broadcaster to I'm actually now in a place where, is that really what I want? Do I want to look at something else? Do I want to evaluate change? Is that career path that I thought was the be all and end all going to give me the opportunities to serve and make a difference, which is what my ultimate goal is to serve and make a difference. And at the particular moment in time, it's not. So I either keep fighting for it because I think it's the right thing to do, or I go, well, what do I need to do? And I think that's a big bit of realization of certainly not walking away from sports broadcasting, because I absolutely love it, but it's opening my mind to other things and it being okay that if all of a sudden in 2 years' time, I get an amazing opportunity, which is different than sports broadcasting, but it means I can serve and make a difference, and it keeps this happy. It keeps my heart happy. It keeps me happy. Let's go for it. Like, life's not set in stone. And I think that's like a really key thing, is just to don't be afraid to change path, go with it. And, and you'll discover, like, there's some amazing people that have been successful. Colonel Sanders, I don't think opened his first KFC till he was 68. So Winston Churchill wasn't Prime Minister of the UK till he was in his mid-60s. It's okay. Like, no one is an instant success. Like, you have time and grow, and it'll come together.
And that Breitling watch, you want to earn it, not just because you can pay for
Yeah.
it, but have you earned it? Are you comfortable enough financially that it's not going to be a burden? I mean, that's a different thing than like, I've got it, like it's not the goal, it's the result of the hard work. I get that about you. The other thing is I want to add, because oftentimes we pass these things by, but yes, Breitling, yes, Aston Martin, these things are great, and it's the results of your hard work. But also, if you go to your website, michaelkurn.com, you look on the front page, it says charity, right? And I'm really big on pushing people. If you're an adult and you've got comfort and you're able to help other people, you're obliged to. Like you have to lean on these problems, whether you're in your case like lending some celebrity or you're an ambassador to bring attention to something. There's so many ways to do this. Let's talk about your charitable work because I bet that makes your great grandpa happier than anything else that you do because you're making a difference.
Yeah, no, completely. I think there's a lot of power in humanity, and it's something that actually has come to light in the last 12 months with COVID. The amount of people that have rallied together and made a difference. And it's really interesting when you look at the world as a society. We've become almost a society where we expect that it's given to us, and we expect governments to look after us. And actually, if you look back 100 years ago, a lot of the big community projects were funded like by the local people, by the groups. You look at Carnegie from Scotland. You've got Carnegie Hall. You've got all these amazing places, and he was a successful businessman that gave back. And I think that's really important, that we've become quite as a human race on the whole. I think we've become quite selfish, and actually I think COVID has maybe opened that a little bit more, and we are helping our neighbor a bit more and doing bits and pieces. But yeah, for me to kind of make a difference and help people is massive. And there's a few charities I'm involved with. Dare to Express is a fantastic local charity that kind of helps people and takes them on experiences to help deal with mental health, which is great. But yeah, there's obviously something very rewarding in that, which I absolutely love.
I love it. Yeah, I love the effort and taking on charities. How do you manage? You've got a lot of things going on. You're writing books, you're making movies, you're trying to consider other options, you're presenting sports. How do you manage your time and then also make sure that you're holding yourself accountable for things like charity? Because look, charity is not supposed to be easy. It's hard. And it's hard to get up and give your time away. Yes, you may love it, but you have to hold yourself accountable to go do it. How do you manage all of these things and say no to the right things and say yes to the right things?
I tend just to say yes to everything, to be fair. But no, I kind of manage it as best I can, and just try and make time for a bit of everything. And, and all of a sudden you get a phone call and, we were meant to be on an hour later today, but then all of a sudden I got a call saying, can you do something at 7? I'm like, yeah, I'll try. I try and juggle things. And it's obviously, it's an art balancing it all. But I think there's so many amazing opportunities and things in life, and it's too easy to say no. I'd much rather say yes and try and, well, it's a bit like anything, isn't it, right? If you face with a problem, if you spend all of your time worrying about it, it's not going to happen. But if you spend 95% of the time in the solution to the problem, you're going to do some really cool stuff. So I just say yes and then make my diary work and just spend 95% of my time trying to make the diary work. But it's amazing. It's great. There's that really famous Will Smith quote, isn't there? I'm trying to think which film it is now, but life's not the amount of breaths you take. It's about the amount of moments that take your breath away. And I think, there's some amazing things that I've done that have come off the back of saying yes to something spontaneous that I never thought was going to happen. So, yeah, seize the moment, seize the day. You have to kind of balance your time. And I guess, hey, there's time to sit still later on.
What moments have taken your breath away in sport that you've seen? You've obviously witnessed some incredible things.
Yeah, that's a really good question. As I mentioned earlier, I think announcing someone that has just won a gold medal is very cool. But actually, there's something really powerful in standing in an empty arena once the moment is finished. There's like a real air of something happened, and I think the one that hit me the most, and I think it was just quite overwhelming because it was a very intense schedule, is I presented the Hockey World Cup in London a few years back. And my journey with hockey has been incredible. They gave me a chance when I was 18 years old to present, and I presented loads of stuff for them. And it's led to the Olympics, it's led to everything. And I presented in a Hockey World Cup on home soil. It was an intense schedule. I lost my voice on day 2 and had to take 2 days off. Got it back. I got so excited on day 1. We had the red arrows. It was insane. And then luckily we had a rest day 3. So I only missed 1 day. But we got to the end of that tournament, and I remember we all packed down, and there was a little food corridor almost where all the like the refreshments were, and there was a party there after. And I just walked out into the middle of the hockey pitch, and there was this massive stand, 15,000 people, and I just stood there, and it was quiet, but there was an air that something had just happened, and that was really special for me. It kind of took my breath away. It was a little bit overwhelming and a little bit emotional in a sense, because it's like, wow, okay, this is I've just been part of this. This is cool, and it's been part of my journey. So I would say that's been the biggest moments that's taken my breath away. And it was a moment of gratitude and appreciation, and after the moment, which was quite cool.
Yeah, that's great. I want to talk to you a little bit. World Cup last time around for England was fantastic. My girlfriend's son happened to be in England studying at Cambridge for the summer. And it was bananas. People were putting their faces through windows. They were celebrating, just all kinds of crazy stuff was happening. What is that like for someone like you? Because did you work that World Cup, or were you more fan centric that time?
No, I was a fan for that one, which was great. But no, I guess for the answer to your question is I worked quite a few Saints games when I worked for the Premier League, and I had to kind of sit on my hands. But everyone around knew I was a Saints fan, so they'd be like, "Come on!" I'm like, "Yeah, come on." So yeah, you have to remain neutral, but I guess when it's professionalism, isn't it? It's like no different if you're an athlete and you're playing against the team you grew up supporting. It's a level of professionalism. You're there to report on it, and obviously you can have a little bit of a cheer afterwards once a goal goes in, and you can be happy that your team's won. But yeah, you're being professional. You're in the zone, and you have to kind of, in those moments, you just have to put your passions aside. And sometimes when you broadcast, you can have that bit of passion and be a little bit biased and show your colours of your team. But yeah, no, when you've got to remain neutral, you remember you're there for the athletes, for the sport, and for the audience. So you have to be a little bit impartial.
There's a couple moments in sports that stand out for me that give me this magic feeling, and sometimes it's tied to the announcer. Sometimes it's just the emotions that all build up from that. Al Michaels' call of the 80 U.S. team beating the Russians, that I'm doing it right now. I can feel it. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. And they beat the Russians, which, I mean, okay, great. It's in America, but I think everybody can appreciate what it means to beat the best team in the world, and you're a bunch of college guys, and a lot of them don't even play in the professional hockey league after that. They're done. So it's just like this David and Goliath story. But also today is an annual day for Major League Baseball, where they call it Jackie Robinson Day. And Jackie Robinson, for those who don't know, was a black player who broke the color line permanently. A couple of guys had tried before that, but he was the guy that he came in, and after that, the floodgates opened. So it happened in April 15th, 1947. The entire league has retired his number, so no one else can ever wear it. But today they all wear it, and we all remember that. And it's just such a great day. And here's the thing that you guys probably don't know in England. Jackie Robinson's baseball career up to that point in college, which was really what the main part of his career was he was not a very good baseball player. Like, his numbers didn't indicate that he was going to be successful. Like, he was a batter who batted 200, which is 20% of the time he got a hit. Someone who's good gets 30% of the time. And somehow, and this incredible athlete figured it out. But if you were to pick a path, you wouldn't pick that path. You would say there's got to be somebody who's obviously better, but he was the guy. He had the right kind of fury, the right kind of determination, and he did this incredible thing. And to this day, and his wife is still alive, by the way. She's almost 100 years old. Yeah. And so she lived through this time, and so she's still there, and it's just such a neat thing. And it makes me excited about, who we all are as humans, as we look and see, like, we can overcome massive, inequity, and we can take on challenges. And the guy you think, oh, there's no way if you saw his numbers from UCLA when he played baseball, you'd be like, no way this guy drafted for anything. And now he's a Hall of Famer, and he was a fantastic player.
Yeah. No, massively.
Yeah. What are some of those moments for you? Are there any of those things that are truly magic? I mean, these are American things, so obviously, they don't have to necessarily resonate for you, but what stands out?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's loads of sporting achievements, isn't there? And just, I think when you kind of witness some amazing sporting feats and people doing things, it's so inspiring. And I guess sometimes it's that realization that in a moment in time, you mentioned Eddie the Eagle. Like, Eddie the Eagle wasn't the world's best ski jumper, but all of a sudden he kind of got a little bit of publicity and a bit of fame for just giving it a go. And I think there's a lot to be said for that in human nature. Everyone loves someone that tries. Everyone loves an outsider. And, there are some amazing people in sport that, have become icons. And you have a moment in time. And back to the 76 documentary, Bobby Stokes scored the winning goal for Southampton. He's hit the shot. It's not really the best he could have hit a ball, but it's gone in. And now he's a legend. So, yeah, there's always moments in sport like that.
Yeah, it's that. I don't know what you guys call a ball that's poorly kicked, but that snork, that dunk, or not dunk, but like a dink there,
Yeah.
that little rough thing that happens, the ball happens to bounce, it hits a sprinkler, or whatever whatever it is, and all of a sudden it goes in, and that's greatness. It's
Sure
it's
is.
crazy. In baseball, if the ball hits the bag and like it becomes a hit, like the ball was terribly hit, but it happens to hit the third base bag and it rolls into fair territory, and you're like, oh my God, it's like it's
Love that.
It's crazy. We're close to the end here. Do you want to ask me any questions at all?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. So thank you so much for the opportunity to come on and talk to you. It's thank you for being accommodating, because me trying to fit too much things in my day.
Yeah, no worries. We had to go through the landscapers, but I think we covered that okay. But yeah, so everybody should check out Michael Kurn. Just type in michaelkurn.com and you'll see all his stuff. And he's super cool guy. And I really appreciate you coming across the nation and the ocean to talk with me, at least virtually. And hopefully we can get together at some point someday and do a one live face to face. I can't wait to get back out on the road and do these things. And I'm dying to get out to England and go run around and do things. Just everybody go support. He's at Michael Kurn on all social media. Anything in closing?
No, thanks so much for having me on. A real pleasure. And say love what you're doing. Thank you so much for creating this space and this opportunity for people to come on and share their story. So please keep that up, Pete. Really thank you. Appreciate it.